All right, welcome to my Endterm presentation. To pick up where we left off in my last presentation, and as a quick review, Aesthetics of Real, the title of my MFA thesis, is a body of work meant to showcase and describe my artistic and professional practice, highlighting various aspects of materiality, technical process, and theory that inform this mode of creation and craft. The term real is a hard concept to grasp, let alone material to work with as an artist. Real is a state of flux, continually being redefined and renegotiated by the technologies and politics of a time and place. It's in this challenging terrain where I make work, using art to probe the edges of reality and the fabrications of our social contracts with one another. Drawing from Nicolas Bouillard's Marx-inspired idea of the social interstice, in his book Relational Aesthetics, defined as interstitial spaces in human relations that art can occupy, transforming the way people interact with one another, I believe my work acts as or similar to these spaces and environments where social relations can be both envisioned and reconsidered, exploiting small gaps in normality for various reasons and motivations. To balance out this Marxist idea laid out by Bouillard, according to Martin Heidegger, this act of challenging normality can be thought of as enframing, a way of revealing that does not merely represent the world, but rather reshapes it, compelling us to see realities as they are organized and manipulated, not just organizing and manipulating them. This aligns closely with my approach to the real, not as a passive reflection of what is, but as an active construction and unconcealment that questions, redefines, and reveals nature and technology. Additionally, Theodore Adorno's notion that true art must resist and challenge the status quo resonates through most of my pieces in one way or another. Adorno believed that art is the social antithesis of society, capable of revealing societal contradictions and pushing against the prevailing norms. In this way, my work not only reveals the real, but also critiques it, offering a forum of resistance to conventional views and inviting viewers into a deeper engagement with what lies beneath the surface of the apparent and visible. My practice is driven by a fascination with technologic systems that shape realities, from AI, digital media, and the internet, to social technologies like culture, language, and politics. I'm drawn to vibrant materiality, a concept Jane Bennett describes as matter that possesses the ability to change and influence human and non-human actors. My processes stem from experimentation, but ultimately confront and challenge reality by exploiting systems and leaning into humor and absurdity. My semester term started a bit early this go-round, as I had the privilege and opportunity to join Philip Van Kuren, the most senior and tenured faculty member in the Division of Art, on his 30th-ish New York Colloquium course. This course is one of the very few things collectively and for decades touted around the Dallas art community as a quintessential SMU must-do, giving students first-hand experience with the New York City art world, visiting museums and galleries every day for 2 full weeks, not only getting exposure to new ideas, networking with gallery owners and other artists, but also receiving course credit. And as a graduate student, it is covered by scholarship. This is one of the best experiences SMU offers art students, just under the full paid tuition scholarship and personal studio space. However, I was surprised to find out how difficult it was to secure my attendance for this trip, as it almost didn't happen. Apparently, for whatever institutional bureaucratic reasoning, whether it was funding, time frame, amount of students signed up, or something else, my conversations with Philip, along with my travel plans, were left in limbo until about a week before the trip. Even after his tragic hip-breaking fall during the trip, I was unsure if I was going to receive credit upon my return to campus. This instability and resistance to such a special, unique, and well-intentioned course left me with a strange feeling, as the marketing and promotional efforts of the school, orientations, and initial conversations with faculty did not communicate this instability. I didn't let this strange, disdaining feeling get in the way of my New York Colloquium experience, though. I journaled, went to museums and galleries, met gallery owners, networked, and even collaborated with other artists. I caught up with friends, started new series and pieces, and had a fun time also experiencing local New York culture. I had the opportunity to see a retrospective on one of my favorite contemporary artists, as Devlin. I got to work in this studio space with my friends in the new World Trade Center building. And I was even able to catch a Kaiju Big Battle event, which is similar to a Mexican luchador wrestling match, but instead of masked men in a ring, the performers dress up as Japanese monsters battling each other while destroying a cardboard city. Very inspiring and enlightening experiences for me. One of the new collaborative series that was initiated in New York is called The Wheel of Existence. The Wheel of Existence, an installation created by myself, Ori, Mihao, and Tavius, delves into the nature of existence through the Buddhist Wheel of Life. Ori and Mihao are both practicing Tibetan Buddhists, and the work intends to present a circular dome projection where AI-generated characters, modeled loosely from Ori's painting style, navigate 6 distinct realms. Each realm reveals unique challenges and triumphs, reflecting a spectrum of human experience. It challenges viewers to reflect on their own place within the grand cycle of existence and awaken to the profound beauty of the human spiritual journey. All I have at this point are sketches and elements, but here you can see how this project is developing. This work is a fusion of technology and spiritual iconography. The Wheel of Existence not only questions but also expands our understanding of existence, offering a contemporary lens through which we can view and translate ancient philosophies. In this animation composite, you can see some of my sketches, if you will, where I've transformed video footage of Ori performing various mudras and dances into various representations of elements in the Wheel of Life. When I returned to campus, not only was I sad that Philip would be taking a medical leave of absence due to his injury, but I was also disappointed to hear that John Dickinson would be leaving too. I was supposed to TA for his Intro to Sculpture class that David Chalier ended up taking over for. Unfortunately, due to the quick replacement, the class has been quite a struggle to organize, ultimately proving to be a quite frustrating use of time. Within the couple of weeks that followed this news, I also learned that my trip to Abu Dhabi to showcase the premiere of Mwimbi, a collaborative series between Adnan Razvi and I for the World Islamic Economic Forum, was indefinitely postponed due to conflicts in the Middle East. This year was already getting to be quite frustrating. We managed to still have a preview exhibition of the work here in Dallas, though, at my friend's studio. We did this to document the work in an actual physical place and to continue the conversational momentum we created with curators and venues to give this work life in other places. I showed this work for midterm, but to quickly review, this work is a series inspired by Adnan's original paintings, forms, and material processes, conceptually rooted in migration, drawing parallels between waves of water crashing and the displacement of cultures and peoples. We see technology through various experimental AI workflows as a relevant actant in this equation, and we've used it to further accentuate the presence of these original motifs. We found out about 3 weeks ago we are confirmed to have some of this work in a group exhibition at Sun Valley Museum of Art, located in Ketchum, Idaho, next July. In addition to this, we are in talks to have this work shown in some other upcoming contexts as well. On February 16th, it was officially announced that I would be one of the many artists contributing to Meow Wolf's new Houston location. In a much more contractor dynamic, the company agreed to commission a unique adaptation of my Body in Flux series. This art game is set to be located in an arcade cabinet the company will fabricate, and in August will be on display for hundreds and thousands of people to interact with. This is progress on what that looks like as of now. The Body in Flux series is conceptually rooted in the mashing up or blending of the physical human body with the digital body. Through the juxtaposition of a physical artificial flesh with artificially generated digital renderings depicting seemingly artificial, organic, human-inspired organ forms, the work playfully explores an uncanny yet critical relationship between the human and the digital, the simulated, the artificial, and the natural. In this iteration, audiences are encouraged to interact with this flesh ball through the arcade controls, affecting different interactions for a digital stress ball type experience. Another aspect of my practice is managing a variety of commercial work and clients. I run most of these commercial projects through my company, Jumbo Jumbo. My company, rooted in digital production, has been building a handful of case studies in viral marketing and online spectacles over the recent years, leveraging earned media and bot strategies. I apply the same line of thinking that I do with my art, but applied more commercially to clients' marketing efforts and budgets. I started conversation with a toilet spray brand last semester called Poopery. Long story short, this semester we produced some experiential marketing for them, specifically their partnership with Rolling Stone magazine at South by Southwest. We essentially did a handful of various projections and animations for the brand so that thousands of people could experience their product in a fun and exciting context. In addition to this work, I've also been servicing a venue in Las Colinas, the Rayleigh Underground, programming the animated contents for their LED screen. Water Wars is another series that I showed quite a bit last semester. As I've been busy with other projects, I haven't had a chance to develop this very much. However, a local gallery, Row 2, has sold a few of the pieces in this series for me and has invited me to have a solo show this summer, featuring new pieces in the series. I am fortunate for this opportunity. In addition to the solo show invitation, they would like to host my thesis exhibition, Aesthetics of Real, in 2025. I have not got them to sign a paper yet, but that's the plan. I still plan to have some pieces in the Pollock Gallery with my peers, but we'll be able to achieve much more at Row 2, being given much more space, control over lighting, and access to a larger public audience. On March 17th, I was invited by the School of the Art Institute of Chicago to give a short talk about my experience at the school to the newly admitted students from the surrounding DFW area at the Nasher Sculpture Center. This was my 8th time being invited back to do this for them. I always have a great time meeting all of the new undergraduates from the area, and I'm happy to answer specific questions usually pertaining to financial aid, on-campus work, and life in Chicago. When talking about the Nasher, last September, an article I was invited to write for their magazine was published. The article was a short review of the artist Sarah Z and her work, slightly comparing it to my own, but ultimately promoting her spring exhibition, which is on display now. This semester, for my art history seminar course with Dr. Elizabeth Eager, Materials and Materiality in American Art, I was assigned to write a much longer 6,000-word essay about her recent installation, Love Song, on display at the Nasher Sculpture Center. I look at this work through various theoretical lenses, including the early art of the panorama and moving panorama, while thinking about Jane Bennett's Vibrant Matter, J.J. Gibson's Theory of Affordances, and a handful of other scholars and philosophers. The paper ultimately talks about the materiality of memory and her ability to craft art out of materials that aren't exactly tangible, propping up the argument of the material of real, to help support my thesis and artistic body of work. On April 6th, I was invited to show work at a new local gallery called New Media Contemporary. The show was a current and recent student show featuring new media art from many students at surrounding colleges, including UNT, UTD, TCU, and me representing SMU. I was told I could show anything I wanted, but was also asked if I could projection map the outside of the building, a service I would typically charge money for. When I asked what the budget to do that was, I learned it was close to nothing. So I decided I would just be showing a piece and not providing an additional service to the gallery, as I've already done this for them once for free. I asked if I could make a new piece and debut it in response to the show, and the gallery owner gave me permission to do so. So I decided to interpret J.J. Gibson's Theory of Affordances into a cheeky sculptural work dealing with what an environment like a gallery, a community, or school program can afford. The name of the piece is called Affordances of New Media, and plays into the artificial materiality of the new media categorization of art. Quite crudely and brutalistly strapped together, the turf-layered piece is suspended with chain, washing self-reflective light upon itself to call attention to its artificiality and the green substance being projected. Medium and surface, the other two defining qualities of an environment, according to Gibson, are spelled out with utilitarian gaff tape, a very common material used in audiovisual production, onto the projectors themselves. On December 8th last semester, I initiated conversation with Burke after attending an information session with him regarding the SMU in Tokyo program, an opportunity I was encouraged to attend by multiple people at the school. I completed an application with SMU Abroad that day and was almost immediately rejected because I'm a graduate student and apparently the SMU abroad programs aren't covered by the scholarship graduate students receive as the tuition credit structure changes. I thought about it and decided that if possible, I would like to pay for it on my own because this trip offers a very unique opportunity to immerse myself within a place, culture, and history that influences my work on various levels. Japan's significant contributions to global pop culture, its consistent technological advancements, and its historical context and cultural traditions and resiliency, especially in a post-nuclear age, are inspiring and topics I would like to explore at a deeper level. I thought this trip might also help me in my Fulbright application as I've never been to Asia and I was thinking about applying to Taiwan. On December 26th, I asked Burke if it would be okay for me to tag along and not receive any credit. I would just pay my way to keep up with the trip. He was positive and told me he would ask Study Abroad if I could be a TA or something equivalent during this time, and if they said no, would still try to help me find a way to make it happen. On February 27th, about 2 months later, we finally have an outline for a way that I might be able to attend the program. Step 1 is to have Nishiki, the Director of Graduate Studies, create a course number and study plan that would apply to my degree requirements. Step 2 is to contact Christy Pearson at Study Abroad with this course number to figure out costs. And step 3 is to contact Pam Henderson to submit the tuition payment. On March 13th, another month, Nishiki let me know that ASAG 6313 had been created, a 3-credit studio elective independent study course that I could register for. This is the same level as our graduate seminar and committee studio credits. Pam quickly let us know that Brian said no scholarships in any way would be used to cover the study trip with SMU Abroad, something I was already prepared for and knew I would be responsible for. What I was not prepared for was the response from SMU Abroad demanding that the course be 6 credit hours instead of 3, although my MFA degree only required 3 credits. At $1,674 per credit hour under the Study Abroad program, this was a quick $5,000 difference in my expected costs for credits that would not have anything to do with my degree, yet I would still be responsible for paying. $5,000 is a lot of money, especially for nothing. I was confused as to why SMU Abroad was making this demand. I also found it strange when looking up the price per credit hour on SMU's website because all Meadows art degree courses, including the ASAG courses, are listed at $50 per credit hour. So when I asked SMU Abroad why they needed it this way, they said it's because the course is actually 2 courses. The first part is abroad and the second part is on campus, which I also found strange because the credit hours in the SMU and Tokyo program accommodate for the expenses accrued in program providers abroad, but the credit price doesn't change once students get back onto campus. And if this is for art credit, why is there such a big difference between the $1,600 credit hour in Study Abroad and the $50 credit hour in Meadows if this is essentially a Meadows-derived credit? So clearly, the SMU Abroad program isn't set up in a fair or transparent way regarding their costs and fees. So I decided to ask about the option to continue with the independent study course, just not affiliated with SMU Abroad. I would pay my way through the trip, covering my own flights, hotels, food, tickets, etc., and coordinate with Burke, the instructor, via an agreed-upon study plan separate from the SMU and Tokyo trip. Because this wouldn't be through the SMU Abroad, SMU Abroad, similar to our other graduate ASAG courses, it should be covered by my scholarship, making the 3-credit, $150 course paid for. The response then from SMU Abroad was that I would be a liability to the university. So I countered and said I would be more than happy to create and sign a contract with any relevant parties waiving any liability I may be. I have my own limited liability company and work with contracts in this nature quite often. Unsurprisingly, their response was no. You either participate or not. While this entire experience up to this point was extremely frustrating, disappointing, and very distracting, it was even worse knowing that no one else from my department was responding to these rather open-ended questions. Of course, the Study Abroad program will say, no, you can't come if you don't pay us. The question I was essentially asking, though, was directed towards my department. Can I still go to Japan and fulfill the independent study outside of the Study Abroad program? This frustration led to a relatively harsh and pesky email, mostly directed towards Study Abroad, because that's who was responding to me in this email thread. This correspondence was then forwarded to the provost's office, and this is what they had to say in response. Of course, as an individual, you are free to travel wherever you choose at your own expense, and Professor Jam can choose to meet with you on his own time outside of his responsibilities to the program. But you may not participate in class meetings, activities, or excursions related to the SMU in Tokyo program. If you do choose to go abroad on your own, I would also recommend that you consult with your graduate program office for any additional requirements they may have with respect to your activities abroad. You should also inform Allison Russell in the Office of Risk Management if you plan to travel internationally as part of your program of study. So, if I'm not mistaken, this is permission from the provost's office to move forward with my independent study with Burke in Japan outside of the study abroad program, as long as I don't interfere with the SMU in Tokyo activities. Dr. Lee even recommended that I inform the Office of Risk Management of my travel for my program of study, if I decide to go. This was great news to me, as it clearly outlined and communicated the rules of my engagement to facilitate this very special academic opportunity. On March 27th, just a few days after this email from the provost office, I had an advising meeting with Nishiki. She started the conversation by asking me what my plans for the summer were. So I responded with, well, I'm excited to be going to Japan for the independent study trip. And she said, oh yes, about that. Apparently, in her conversations with Brian, after this email from the provost office, I was not allowed to go on the trip for 2 reasons. The first reason she gave me was, well, Brian said it was unfair to the undergraduates if I were to attend. The second reason is because Burke is in creative computation, a division or department or segment or area or whatever that is no longer in the Meadows Division of Art as of a couple of years ago, he technically cannot lead or facilitate a graduate level independent study course for me. This was extremely difficult for me to process, and still is, but I'm getting over it. What about my presence in Japan, if I'm not to participate in any of the official activities, would be unfair to the undergraduates? And even if I did participate, what wouldn't be fair? I'm a graduate student who has a full ride scholarship to the school based on a number of accolades and portfolio. I did my undergraduate studies, none of which were abroad, extensively studying not just fine art, but also creative computation. I believe my presence would have been appreciated by the undergraduates on the trip, as it was on the New York colloquium trip. If we are going to talk about what is fair to the undergraduates, we should probably start with the tuition credit price structure, not my presence. To the second point, if this technicality was such an issue, why were conversations about me going on this trip entertained for 5 months, essentially this entire semester? If graduate students are not allowed to go on study abroad trips, that should be clearly communicated and by no means promoted to the graduate students as something they should try to do. It's extremely disappointing that this situation came to be, and as a means of processing through this angst and frustration, as many artists do, I've turned this energy into a 6-part series representing each of the 6 mandatory credits of the SMU Abroad program called Things I Did Not Learn in Japan. Taking many cues and motivations from the punk rock show Torn Apart on display in the Hammond Arts Library this semester, my series, while nowhere near complete, depicts the chair of our department, Brian, in numerous ways emulating various aspects of Japanese history and culture I did not get to learn about or experience firsthand in Japan. Representing himself, the SMU Abroad program, and whatever other higher levels of strange bureaucratic decisionship that goes on here at SMU, I use AI workflows and my white American Western naivety to play into the tropes of Japan's influence over pop culture in absurd and humorous ways. Titles of a couple of pieces include Brian Sama and Triple Gang Ganger, in reference to Brian and his work.
Yo, check the scam, it's a finesse. SMU's abroad, supposed to impress. Selling dreams, clout chasing that best. Cogs hitting deep, put your water to the test. It's a cap, no facts, just flash. They show you the world, then they take your cash. Experience of a lifetime, that's the bait trap, set lines blurred too late. You ate flex on the ground, but it's all a facade. Behind those pics, something's odd. Keep it 100, gotta call out the game. They playing students, it's a shame all the same.
Lastly, I've been working on a sculpture titled Three Mustangs. It's a sort of remix to the statue on campus called Three Mustangs, just with no space. Like my other work, this is not complete, but I have made tremendous progress on it through my processing of things I did not learn in Japan. As another sort of institutional critique representative of something larger, maybe something more American, or maybe something more global, these Mustangs are physically changed through pervasive, invisible processes and technologies. They are no longer as free or as beautiful. They are warped, constrained, compromised, broken, and algorithmically generated and fed, forced into new implied spaces. The attention to transgression larger forces have placed upon them, whether bureaucratically, socially, politically, environmentally, and if nothing else, very awkwardly, has tragically altered their meanings as symbols of wild, majestic creatures. And in this translation of symbolic meaning, turned them into new, monstrous, glitched, warped patinas and facades of past ideologies and forms that are no longer relevant and haunt their very being. The three Mustangs depicted here could also represent the instability of our division and department, being the three remaining faculty members left in about 3 years at the current rate of faculty departure, due in part to this attention placed on transgression, instead of nurturing the nature of the Mustang. Moving forward, I hope my frustrations have peaked as I continue to process what has happened this semester. I look to the future with optimism, and I will continue to develop my aesthetics of real. I believe these experiences, while testing, ultimately enrich my perspective and invigorate my commitment to provoking the edges of reality and the social contracts that bind us. I plan to reveal more personalized work and explore concepts dealing with trust and currencies as I lay out the frameworks for my thesis. I think I've made a great deal of progress in my work so far, and I'm very excited about what this next year of studies will bring to the table. Thank you for your time and attention.